Yes, welcome back to another F1 2021 My Team Crewmate episode, where today we're joined for episode number 12, round number 12 at the Italian Grand Prix. It's not Imola this time, but it's Monza, one of the more historic tracks to the F1 calendar, so this should be a good race going forward. But first of all, we've got to approach our current driver, Felipe Drugovich, as we're now at that point in the season where we can either stick with our current driver or risk it all and switch things up by going with a bold move and claiming someone else who may not be as good. But for now, I think what we're going to do is stick with Felipe. He's having an okay season. It's definitely not a great season for a rookie driver, but he is having the season I sort of expected from him. Because he's not exactly one of the best FT drivers you can get on the market as your first buy in your My Team Career mode. But what I will have to say about him is that he has been performing to the level of the car, and I can't really expect much more than that. He has been finishing in the races he usually finishes higher than where he qualifies, and on numerous occasions as well, he's had to DNF from many races this season. I don't know how many it is so far, but I'm sure it's been a lot so far. So our car itself has let him down in his races, and I think we need to honour his contract and keep him till the end of the season because of that. Now, as well, as you may have just seen on screen, we did choose the low risk option when it came to choosing his salary, and I chose that because I was hoping that would increase his focus, as his focus is so low at the minute. It's on 50, and that's really poor for one of the drivers on the F1 roster. And I did that to try and increase his focus, but nevertheless it didn't in the end, which I find really strange. I feel like if you get an increased salary as a driver, that would boost morale and make you more focused on track. But maybe that's something for a future game that the Codys could implement. But yeah, nevertheless, we head into qualifying, and immediately we get hit with some components that we need to change out, and that's going to have a knock-on effect on the amount of time we have in qualifying. So this qualifying first session means we're only really going to have like 5 minutes to get a few laps in, and by the time we head on to our flying lap, look at the clock in the top right hand corner, 2:42 on the clock. So it's now or never. It is crunch time for us to get up into that Q2 session. So this is the lap that we need to be putting our extra bit of effort in, because there's no guarantee on our second lap that we're going to go faster, because the tyres are going to be worn out and we won't end up having that pace advantage. So we've really got to knuckle down and get on with this lap as we go past LECLERC, skimming past him to try to get back onto the racing line to get a better exit out of this chicane. And I'm really starting to feel like we're flying around Monza. 1:40 on the clock still, so we've still got time for our second lap, but we've had no mistakes so far, and with one more bend to go, hopefully there won't be any mistakes throughout this lap, as there's only a straight road to the finish line now. The first lap around Monza on this game, and we go P2 just behind Daniel Ricciardo. So provisional P2 at the moment with 1 minute to go on the clock. I think that's good enough to send us into Q2. But what a lap that was, with all the pressure in the world on us to deliver, and we've just signed, sealed and sent that. I even had to double check that I was still playing F1 2021, because that just didn't seem real to me at all. And of course I am, because you can't make the escape road on this game for whatever reason. But yeah, my teammate Drugovich down in the bottom half of the table, so even though we honoured him with a great contract earlier on, we're not going to be seeing him again anytime in this qualifying session as we go bumping over the curbs at Monza. I just didn't even realise how big the curbs was on this game. Well, obviously I did on this game, but not around this track. So it comes as no surprise that Max would actually leap into Lewis at turn 1 with curbs like that. But anyway, as we look on into lap number 2 of Q2, we're now chasing after Daniel Ricciardo, trying to get some slipstream to boost our lap here. As you can see, we're now 7 seconds ahead of our lap that we just did. Obviously, we went into the gravel trap though, so it's not going to be very relevant to our lap right now. As we're making a little error actually going into that final hairpin. We tried to actually overtake Daniel Ricciardo going into that corner, but it didn't work out. We would have actually crashed into him if we didn't slow down in time. So we actually lost a bit of time from that silly little maneuver in the last part of the lap. But as you can see on screen now, we're now back in the garage and finally having that underbody fixed. I didn't realise we had any damage at the time, but as we stayed out for 2 consecutive laps, we actually had the damage from the previous lap when we went jumping over these curbs stupidly, as you can see right now as we drive past them. And they might not have actually caused us any damage at the time, but progressively as you go through laps with some damage, the damage tends to get worse on simulation damage. And in qualifying, when every single second matters, you're going to need every single little millisecond to boost yourself up those positions. So having damage that just prevents you from gaining more time just isn't what you need. And as we finally go past the start finish line on our third and final lap of the session, we managed to find 2 attempts off that final hairpin where we challenged Daniel Ricciardo to in the previous lap, but unfortunately it isn't enough to send us into Q3, as we're going to have to settle for P11 unfortunately for tomorrow's race, as 5 other drivers went fast on us in Q2. They all get boosted into Q3. We unfortunately don't, along with Vettel, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Alonso and Russell. So by the looks of things, qualifying is going to be separated by the performance table, with all top 4 teams making it through into Q3, but that could be another story for tomorrow's race.
We're back in Italy once again for another round of the Formula One World Championship, and what a great race is in store for us today here at the oldest circuit on the calendar. Monza hosted its first race all the way back in 1922. With top speeds reaching 215 miles per hour, only a few places can challenge Monza's crown as the fastest circuit in F1. Hard braking zones going into the 3 chicanes make up the majority of the 11 corners on this 3.6 mile circuit. And just in case the slipstream wasn't enough, 2 DRS zones will help encourage some closer action. Alongside me once again for coverage of today's race, it's none other than the great Anthony Davidson. Let's have a chat about McLaren. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Perez, Max Verstappen and Sainz, Leclerc, Charles, Vettel and Kimi Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Russell, Lance Stroll and Latifi, Gasly, Tsunoda, they've taken a grid penalty, Felipe Drugovich and Nikita Mazepin, Fernando Alonso, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, Ocon, Mick Schumacher and Daniel Ricciardo fills the last spot on the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
So it seems like we're not the only ones taking some engine replacements in today's episode, with us being bumped up into P8 from P11. So we've already got a boost in today's race, and hopefully we can build upon that and get some more points again today. Obviously we're going to do the one stop onto the medium tyres rather than the hards, because it is quite overcast conditions, so it's not going to be too hot on the circuit. So these medium tyres should last the distance. But 5 red lights we go for the Monza Italian Grand Prix in season 1, and it's lights out and away we go. We're up against Leclerc on our left hand side there as we get bogged down at the start of the race once again. Vettel now on our left hand side making the attack as we get swamped by the cars behind us, going into turn 1, just taking it easy into this first chicane. Giovinazzi now making the move on us, but fortunately for us, we have enough room and get the power down early enough to stay ahead in P9. So we lose out on that first position to Vettel, but crucially we make it out of turn 1 unscathed, and now we can look to reclaim that position from Vettel, going from way back, making a move, trying to make a very audacious move on Sebastian Vettel there. It didn't quite work out, and now Giovinazzi can have a go on us. We left the door open for the Italian, and yet again we get a lucky escape as he backs out of that one this time. But yeah, that was a very audacious move and a very stupid one, as that could have ended in disaster. We could have lost our front wing. So yeah, we're going to take that as a warning and a let off for us, and take this race a bit more cautiously as well going forward, as we don't want to lose any more body parts or any more of our car really. Luckily though, she's still flying like the wind, so we still got that on our side, and we can now settle into P number 9. So thankfully there wasn't any crashes going into turn 1, and as it's such a slow corner, it feels like the Monaco hairpin sometimes, especially on lap 1, where like there's there's no room for manoeuvres as you've got cars either side of you. But let's have another look at the start of this race with our leaders. Lando Norris starting in first place, notably, but he gets bogged down by Valtteri Bottas, making the move around the outside, making a lovely move, and he just gets the power down early enough to send it up into P1. So the Mercedes driver not messing about after what you could say is maybe a dismal effort in the last race after losing out to Lewis Hamilton, his main rival and championship leader. So he's really going to try and step up to the mark and try to get maximum points here at Monza. But will Lando Norris be a thorn in the side and spoil the party for the Flying Finn? We'll have to wait and see till the end of the race. But back on board with ourselves now as we move up onto lap number 3, as we go chasing after the German driver Sebastian Vettel just ahead of us. We gained some time on him, to be fair to us, but as we go into turn 1 and Vettel spun it at the first turn in, we go a bit wide trying to take some avoiding action, and that's left the door open for Giovinazzi yet again to try and make another attack. But I think we've just about got enough power to keep us going. But let's have another look back at that incident. It seems to me like it was all Vettel's fault. I don't think he even touched the back. I don't think he even came near to the back of Charles Leclerc. And yeah, as you can see, just span round of his own accord, just made a mistake putting his foot down too early on that curb. I think he got too much on the curb, and then now he's having to wait patiently to let all the drivers by so he can rejoin the track or in a safe position. But it's Aston Martin's loss, and it is our gain, not only in this race as we move up a position, but also in the constructors table, as hopefully we can get more points in today's race than the Aston Martin drivers and move up further, well, move closer to gaining that little bit of extra cash at the end of the season. But Giovinazzi now moves up a position as he moved past us with that DRS on that second DRS straight, and we can't unfortunately keep with him, so we're gonna have to try and stay in his slipstream on this penultimate straight down towards the finish line, try and get as much slipstream as we can to make the dive bomb round the outside, just keeping the throttle steady, not making it taking it too wide of a line, as Lando Norris now sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and we managed to complete a lovely move on the Italian, and now we have DRS to make a bigger gap on the Alfa Romeo driver behind us. As we moved on to 2 laps later though in this Grand Prix, and Charles Leclerc, he's made a big gap to us up ahead, 4.2 seconds ahead, so we're not catching him anytime soon. But look behind us, Gasly is now ahead of both the Alfa Romeo drivers, so there's been a bit of a reshuffle going on just behind us in this Grand Prix, and all we can do is keep our concentration levels there, keep calm in this situation, and keep driving to our max, trying not to make any mistakes further on in this race. But as we move on to lap number 7, and Gasly's still there, he's not moved, we haven't gained any time on the AlphaTauri driver. As you can see, 3 red sectors in this lap, so we're not doing great on these soft tyres. And now with DRS, he goes past us and cuts right across us onto the racing line. I don't know what the Frenchman was thinking. He could have ended both our races. We could have gone straight into the back of Pierre Gasly, and that close encounter with damage has just left us a bit shaken, I can't lie. But we're still going to push and try and make the move on the Frenchman once again, try and reclaim that P8 position, but we can't quite do it as we enter turn 4, so we're gonna have to wait patiently until Parabolic are on the same lap, and we've got DRS this time, so we're gonna make the move along the start finish straight as we now begin to line up the move on the AlphaTauri man. As we enter lap number 9, our tyres beginning to wear out now, so we're now going to have to try and save and stop being so aggressive on these tyres. But we've got to get this move done first before we enter the pit lane for our stop, and we managed to make the move into turn 1. Gasly didn't really put up much of a fight just then, and I think we just got enough power to keep ahead of the Frenchman. But do we though, as he's still there right on our tail? Is he thinking about making the dive bomb into turn number 4? We will see now as we stay to the right hand side, keeping on the racing line, and Gasly doesn't have the chance to do so as the safety car is called out for the first time in this race, and that can have come at a more perfect time for us as we're narrowly approaching the pit stop window. We can now go on to make a free pit stop onto a new set of tyres, and you see Latifi spun it just where Vettel did. He got too much on the curb once again. He managed to save it, but then tried to floor it out of turn 2, which spun him round facing my teammate Felipe Drugovich, who backed into I think it must be Schumacher or Mazepin. So we decide to make our pit stop, but we're not the only ones, as the top half of the table all decided to come in, and Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, they've all decided to double stack in this race, and that could be crucial for us to maybe maybe jump them in this free pit stop that we're now getting right now, but it's going to be very fine margins to do so. We're going to make this pit stop very quickly, and our pit crew have got to be on the ball today, which they are. 2.5 seconds, it isn't bad at all, and we come out just behind Verstappen, but we do get ahead of Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, the leader in this championship. We're ahead of him, and that's some points we could potentially gain, and Bottas could gain in this championship fight. He struggled in the last few races to defend against Lewis Hamilton, and he's been taking maximum points recently, especially in the Dutch Grand Prix. So is this his redemption race? We'll have to find out. We're now trying to edge onto the back of Max Verstappen, trying to get the jump on him as the lights turn green. The safety car is coming in very slowly, and now we prepare to go racing once again. We cross the start finish line just behind Max Verstappen as the lights go green, and we can now get the jump on the Dutch driver going into turn 1. He's still there on our right hand side though, so we gotta watch him go to the racing line. We gotta take some avoiding action on Bottas as a front wing goes flying there across the camera. I don't know whose that was, but all that hard work trying to make the jump on Max Verstappen has just been undone in a blink of an eye as he outbreaks us going into turn 1, and now Leclerc can maybe have a go at us from behind. Are we susceptible to the attack by the Ferrari man? We just about stay ahead for now, but that inside line has worked wonders for Max Verstappen as he's now up into P3 ahead of Valtteri Bottas, P4 sorry, and now Charles Leclerc can have a go at us. We left the door open going a bit wide into turn 6 and 7, but we just about stay ahead, keeping our foot in round the outside of the Ferrari man and just about stay ahead for now. But up ahead, and Bottas is trying to retake the position off Max Verstappen. As you can see, a lovely move by Valtteri Bottas as we cut the corner slightly there, and now Leclerc right on our tail once again. Does he have an answer to our defence and our rear end as we enter Parabolica now? Will he make the dive bomb? No, he won't. He'll have the DRS though as he takes the second bite of the cherry. But will we get the jump on Max Verstappen? Will we get the slipstream on the Dutch driver? No, he dives into the pits. He must have had contact with Bottas at that turn 1 incident. So it's no wonder he's been going a bit slow. Maybe he had some front wing damage. Maybe that was his front wing flying across the camera on the restart. But as we enter turn 1 now, we just about stay ahead of the Monaco man just behind us for now. But as we enter the last region of the lap, here he is again trying to make the move round the outside as we enter Parabolica. This time he's got ahead of us at the DRS detection zone, but we charge him out, we squeeze him out to the outside, and he has to brake, and I feel like that's a bit cheeky of us to do so. I think we might have got a penalty in real life, but nevertheless, here he is again. DRS only just getting enabled right now because of the safety car, so none of us with the DRS just about raw power down into turn 1. Who's going to break the latest? We just about give him enough room to work with, and we stay ahead once again. We're living off the skin of our teeth right now against the Ferrari man just behind us. 5th place is really up for grabs right now. Everyone's wanting a piece of the action. We've got Leclerc behind us, Gasly, Hamilton not too far behind either. I think the only reason we're staying ahead is because of these fresh medium tyres. Once they wear out, their hard compounder tyres are going to be much better than ours, and we don't have the power advantage to keep up with the likes of the Ferraris, maybe the AlphaTauris, but even them, they're doing really well this season. And as we enter to go on to lap 17, we've got Leclerc and Hamilton batting out behind us. Leclerc goes to our left-hand side, Hamilton to the right-hand side. It's 3 wide down the main straight. Who's going to get it into turn 1? Leclerc breaks later, but Hamilton's got that inside line, and Leclerc, his engine's blown up right in front of us. Hamilton's been let by, but what's Leclerc doing? He's jumped to the other side of the track to try and take an escape road. He could have easily parked up on the left-hand side, but he purposely cuts across us, cuts in front of us to ruin our race and ruin our chances of catching up with Hamilton. But Leclerc, he retires out of this Grand Prix, engine blown up. I don't even think he realised he was out of this race by this time. But look at this, he cut in front of us to maybe try and defend against the likes of myself and Hamilton, but look how close this was to my front wing. We actually did take some damage off the back of Charles Leclerc's rear left tyre there, but luckily for us, I think it is only cosmetic and it's not enough to warrant any performance issues, but now Daniel Ricciardo, he's coming like a rate of knots. That McLaren is flying, and I think he's making up for lost time. For he had an awesome qualifying session round here, and he wants more points, more wins in the bag by the looks of things. After that victory at Spa, he's hungry for more, and being the only other winner in this F1 season so far, apart from Valtteri Bottas and Hamilton, he's maybe trying to challenge for the title as well if he can score some late victories in this season. So don't count the Australian man out just yet. But we managed to sail back past him up into that P6 position with DRS open, and hopefully we can defend this position for the remaining laps. But Daniel Ricciardo, he doesn't die down easily. He's still there on my rear end, looking to get the move on us on the right hand side. This time he does with the DRS open. He retakes that position exactly how he did in the last lap. So he's back up into P6, and we're going to ignore going into the pits because I feel like these mediums can last me to the end, and I feel like we're going to be in a better position for scoring some points. But the person who isn't going to be scoring any points today, Valtteri Bottas, has another DNF this season, and we dive down the inside to get back up into P6 in the midst of all that chaos. So Bottas, the championship rival to Lewis Hamilton, is out of this Grand Prix yet again, so that's going to be a major setback to his title championship. And on the form he's on at the minute, is there any coming back from this defeat as Ricciardo crashes out of the Grand Prix? I just saw on the mini-map just behind us. Let's have another look at that, because I have no idea what just happened just then. I just saw in my mirrors he decked it into the side of the barriers. Let's have another look right now. DRS open, and what a crash that was. Such a high speed because of the curvature of the track as well. Any sort of wobble we get, because he tried to go, he faked to the right, went to the left, and that major wobble just ended his race and ended Latifi's race as well, as he just got blindsided by the crash. And Giovinazzi was also a very lucky boy not to have taken any damage there as well. So luckily for us, another safety car is out, and we decide now is the time to go into the soft tyres, because it's a free pit stop essentially, and we're going to move down a few positions like we can see down into P15, just coming out P16 now, just coming out behind Mick Schumacher, in between the two Haas drivers. So currently we are way out of the points as it stands, 9 drivers down to where we were. Can we make up those positions with this soft compounder tyres? I feel like if we were going to stay on those mediums, we're just going to keep losing those positions, keep losing the points, whereas if we go into the soft tyres, we may end up gaining some more points here today. But now, as the green flags are waved, we get the jump on Mick Schumacher on the left hand side of us, and it's really no match for these soft tyres, the hard speed is softs, and the German driver just had no answer for that as we go diving down the right hand side to the inside of 4 or 5 cars just there, down into turn 1, hoping we can brake as late as we can, and we get the switchback on our teammate Drugovich just ahead of us. Can we get now back into the slipstream of the Brazilian driver, and will he let us pass into turn 4? No team orders on this game, so this move has to be about raw skill as we go down the inside to the inside, just about keeping the car on the track. It's tight, but it's close, but we just about make that move. And in the first half of this lap, we've made up 5 positions so far and counting as we look to get onto the back of Sebastian Vettel, the man who was backwards at turn 1 on lap 3, as we go round Parabolica, getting a great exit out of the hairpin with ERS flowing now. DRS, there's no DRS available for us to use right now, but the slipstream of Ocon will help us maybe make the move on the Frenchman as we go to around the outside of the Alpine car, giving him enough room there into turn 1 and 2, and that is a lovely little move on the Alpine car completed. On to the next one now, and George Russell looking a bit slow. The back end, Sofina coming closer and closer as we enter this high speed left, right, left, and we get that job done quite easily. Next up is the Alfa Romeo drivers, the duo Giovinazzi and Raikkonen, a dream team if I do say so myself, and they were the ones who challenged me last time out in the Dutch Grand Prix. So if you didn't watch the episode, be sure to go check that one out as well, as we make a lovely move on Giovinazzi. And can we get Raikkonen through Parabolica? It looks like a copycat move of the one on Vettel, but this time he's making it a bit hard of myself. We go to the left, trying to use the slipstream as a bit of a catapult, but with the ERS it helps us along the way down this start finish straight. And just like that, we're back up into P number 6, and now we're tailing Gasly, going on to the final lap of this Grand Prix. Can we do it? Can we get back up into that P5 position right behind Hamilton? But first of all, is this Frenchman driver, can we do it? We are way far back behind him, but we've got the DRS and the ERS going. I don't think he's got any of that going for him. As we go to the outside, he goes to defend against us, but he just doesn't do it in time, doesn't defend quickly enough, doesn't react sharply enough, and that moves us up into P5. And I think that's all we'll be able to do for today. I don't think we'll be able to catch the likes of Sainz and Hamilton, but just up ahead in the lead of this Grand Prix down into turn 1, Lando Norris trying to make the move on Perez, who has been leading this Grand Prix for the last few laps since the restart. Norris desperate to get his first win under the books in his career, but I don't think he'll be able to do it with Checo. He's been defending that. You know how big his rear end is in that Red Bull. I don't think Lando will be able to get him unless he can down into the final turn, down into Parabolica. He's got the slipstream. Will he make the move? I don't think he will. No, Lando cannot make the move, and the Red Bull of Sergio Perez will win the Monza, the Italian Grand Prix. Such a shame for Lando Norris, but a superb and supreme drive by Sergio Perez, who wins it in the midst of 2 safety cars, and we come home from P5, a very well and deserved P5 for ourselves. We can be happy with that one. I can't lie, it's very nice to see not a Mercedes driver up on the top step of the podium once again. And Perez joins Daniel Ricciardo in being the only 2 drivers to knock the Mercedes drivers off that top step.
It was a magnificent race and a drive right out of the top draw to take the win for Red Bull today. Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
Without a doubt, the safety car changed everything today. The key to their success was keeping calm and reacting to the situation quickly. We've seen teams in the past throw away wins because they were too hesitant, but here they were decisive, and that's allowed them to take the advantage.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sport that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win.
So a topsy-turvy, entertaining Grand Prix today, with Gasly getting driver of the day, Max Verstappen down in P7 getting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and Sergio Perez winning this Monza Italian Grand Prix. Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton actually gets up onto those other 2 steps of the podium. Lewis actually beating Sainz to that 3rd place position on the last lap of the Grand Prix as well. My teammate down in P14, but up to P17, but probably only through those 4 DNFs from this race. And Latifi bringing him to a halt probably didn't help at all as well. But as we can see, it's now slowly becoming a 1-horse race up at the top of the table. Lewis Hamilton 24 points ahead of Valtteri Bottas. So the Finn really has his work cut out. And I think if the table stays this competitive, I don't think that he'll be clawing his way back into Lewis's shoes anytime soon. As you can see as well, Mercedes, we might as well just give it to them at this point. 184 points ahead at the midway stage of the season. So yeah, it's going to be difficult to catch up with them. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy today's episode, then be sure to hit that like button. And if you're new around here, why not stay a little longer and subscribe to this channel whilst you're at it as well.